Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Kodeations coming at you today with another video on Skylanders Ring of Heroes. And today we're going to be diving into a Gearshift spotlight video. So I'm going to be giving you guys my reasoning why I absolutely love Gearshift, why I think he is a just massively OP evasion tank. We're going to be giving you guys some pros and some cons. Obviously, we got to add some cons in there because you know we got to try to keep it honest on the channel. But nevertheless, we're going to be diving into his kit. Also, we'll be suggesting some heroes to run with him, or heroes that pair really well with him, just because, you know, he is a very niche defensive tank, so he's not going to be somebody that you're going to want to be able to throw on any team composition. He's definitely a niche composition. So with all of that being said, before we dive in, as always, if you are new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all the latest and greatest mobile games, be sure to smash that red subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you get a notification every time we drop a video. And with that being said, let's dive right in. Diving right in, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking a look at Gearshift's kit and skills. We're going to be breaking down exactly what makes her a ridiculously good evasion defensive comp. So let's go ahead and dive into her skills. So obviously we're going to be taking a look at her at max awaken, so that 6-star mark, and all of her skills completely leveled up. And the reason why is going to be because I want to show you guys the true potential of her at the end of the line. So obviously, as you start to use Gearshift early on, the skills aren't going to be exactly the same, because you're not going to get those awakening bonuses or that 6-star bonus or even, you know, maxed out skill up bonus. But nevertheless, you can at least know what you're aiming for by just running and building her in the long haul. So the first one we're going to be taking a look at is going to be the very first skill, and that is going to be a 1 mana cost skill. It does 3 endurance down, which again is huge for a 1 mana cost skill. It is going to be on that 3-turn cooldown, so it is a little bit long for a cooldown, but nevertheless, it is going to be inflicts 137% of attack as damage to one enemy and grants the evasion rate up by 20% effect on yourself for 4 turns and the strength effect for 2 turns. So if you don't know exactly what those are, the evasion rate up just basically increases your attack evasion by 20%, and then the strength is also going to recovers endurance by 1 continuously. So again, very, very nice. And again, don't forget, that's on a 1 mana cost. So again, ridiculously cheap. The next one is going to be a 2 mana cost. Again, very, very good. It's going to be only do 2 endurance down instead of that 3 mark, and it's still going to be on that kind of long 3-turn cooldown, but nevertheless, it's still going to be a cheap skill to use, and it's going to inflict 51% of attack as damage to one enemy 3 times, so not once but 3 times, and grants accuracy down 10% effect for 2 turns with a 40% chance each whenever you attack accurately. So again, not the best overall skill, but nevertheless, it's going to allow you to mitigate some damage and do some damage. And not only that, it's only a 2 mana cost. So again, very, very cheap for the first 2 skills. Both of them are on that 3-turn cooldown, which sometimes can, I'm not saying every single time, but sometimes it can cost you in the middle of a fight, because you might have to sit a round or 2 evading all the enemy's attacks just so you can get your skills off of cooldown. So again, that does kind of suck here and there. I think pairing her with somebody else that can help her with that CC cooldown rate is probably going to be very beneficial. But nevertheless, diving into her passives, and this is going to be where Gearshift really, really shines. It's going to be her passives, and it also is where she actually, you know, you find out that she's very a niche team composition hero. She's not going to be somebody that you're going to be able to throw on any team composition, but definitely if you build her correctly, aka as we are building her, she's ridiculously good. So the first one is going to be, after attacking the enemy, removes parts, and then it says additionally grants the provoke effect on yourself for 2 turns and the evasion rate for 30% effect for 4 turns if you remove the enemy's parts. So basically, the downside with this, when what makes Gearshift a niche Skylander, is going to be because she doesn't have any abilities that have the option to throw parts on the enemy. So no matter whenever you're using her, you have to pair her with somebody that's going to be able to drop parts onto the enemy, whether that's a boss, whether that's several mobs, whatever it is. You're going to need somebody that drops parts, and then Gearshift really, really shines when she can attack that enemy and remove that parts buff or that debuff on that enemy. She takes on that parts, then turns on basically a provoke, you know, for 2 turns, and then that also increases the evasion rate up for her to basically not take any damage. So she basically makes the enemy attack her and single target and focus her, and then she takes 0 damage if you build her correctly, because of all of the evasion that stacks up. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're going to dive into some gameplay on that in a second. And then last but not least is going to be her actual leader skill. So the leader skill for her is going to be increases the evasion rate of tech team members by 20%. So again, that's only affecting tech members. So that's going to be why it's so crucial to build her with tech. We'll dive into a couple of different Skylanders that you can build her with that I think are very, very good. One of them is going to be very vital for you to absolutely have her on the exact same team as Gearshift. And then not only that, it also says here, if Gearshift's health is below 40%, when the turn begins, it grants the heal up effect by 15% on her for 2 turns. So again, if her health is low, if you're towards the end of that round, she's low on health, then it will basically give her the heal up buff, which then gives her an additional 15% of heals when receiving some healing. So again, she doesn't have any healing abilities. She doesn't have the ability to throw parts, and that's going to be the reason why she is a very niche hero, in my opinion, because she's going to rely on some other Skylanders to kind of pop those abilities off. So she's going to, rely on somebody to pop off parts that she can then steal to add that provoke, to create her as that perfect evasion tank. And then not only that, she does need some healing as she takes damage, because she doesn't have the ability to actually self-heal. So again, very, very good, but very, very niche. So what are going to be some of the pros and the cons when it comes to Gearshift? So as we talk about some of this stuff, we're going to hop over here. I'm going to actually go into a challenge. I'm going to show you on the 5th floor to give you guys an example. Now, we're not going to complete this run just because it does work, but it takes absolutely ridiculously long. So, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be ridiculous, but we're going to go ahead and dive in here. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons. So, a fully maxed Gearshift should be able to avoid all non-sure hits. So what I mean by that, if that hit is not a critical hit or a boss hit that is going to be a guaranteed smack because of the massive crit rate, up on that boss, Gearshift, if you build her fully maxed at level 80, should basically mitigate all damage. Any other abilities or attacks that hit her, if you are utilizing the skills of that team composition correctly, you can easily mitigate almost all damage. She almost takes 0 damage whatsoever because of how high you can stack her evasion. The next thing up we've got is he's going to be costing a very cheap mana cost skill. So to give you guys an example, he doesn't cost a whole lot. It's going to give you like 3 mana, and for you spending 3 mana out of your 10 mana pool, he's going to be able to pop off both of his abilities for that 3 mana mark. So we already dived into some gameplay here really quick. I know I had to splice it together just because I kind of fudged up there a little bit, but nevertheless, like I said, he's going to be very, very cheap. And why is this very good, or why is this on the pros tips? And the reason why is going to be because that allows you to bring hard hitters that cost a lot more mana. So to give you guys an example, somebody like Robo, for instance, even with his skills fully maxed out, he still costs quite a bit of mana. His skills actually sit quite a bit on cooldown for a while. And because of that reason, that's going to be where he pairs really well with somebody like Gearshift, just for the fact that he has our Gearshift has the ability to only cost you 3 mana, and if you utilize your skills correctly, you have the ability to actually, always get that provoke on every single one of his skills by attacking somebody that has parts. So that's going to be another really good point. And then last but not least, he also has that provoke, like we just talked about, and that's going to obviously direct and mitigate that damage from any of your other Skylanders if done correctly. Again, this is all based on manual play and you utilizing the skills as much as possible and knowing exactly what those skills are and how they proc. But nevertheless, like I said, that provoke is going to be very nice because you can mitigate some of that damage. But what you see currently going on right now in the back is we are running the 5th floor of the Cyclops dungeon, and the 2 units that we are currently using is going to be Gearshift and going to be Sprocket. Now, this run can actually be done. I'm no joke. I'm not going to lie to you. We can actually run and complete this, but it's going to be ridiculously long, and I mean just way up there in the amount of turns. And the reason why is going to be because obviously we have no damage dealers. We've got Sprocket here, and then we have Gearshift. Gearshift does a little bit of damage. As you can see, they're knocking the boss's health a little bit. We're not even a quarter of the way through. We're already on round 22, but nevertheless, this gives you guys a really good understanding of how well Gearshift can evade and also mitigate that damage from your other Skylanders. So again, diving in here, we're going to actually hopefully set it up. We're going to take him off of auto really fast so I can actually set this up to where we can get additional evasion to just show you what something like this looks like when you stack his evasion correctly. So to give you guys an example, we're already at 144% of evasion. And again, this is ridiculous. This is without any other Skylanders on the field. He is going to just pretty much at this point evade almost every single attack. And as you can see, he's already taken hardly no damage. We're already at round 24. We're about to kill the second tower with Sprocket's AoE ability, and like I said, we can absolutely clear this fight. It's just, it is ridiculously long to do so. But as always, we are talking about the pros, we need to discuss the cons. Now, the cons I know are going to be a little bit lackluster, but, you know, we got to keep it honest on the channel. We got to bring you guys exactly the reason why I feel the way that I do. And the cons right off of the bat is going to be she is a niche hero. If you don't already know, Gearshift is a female, by the way. That's why I keep on saying she, at least in the actual cartoon on Netflix. But nevertheless, she is going to be a very niche Skylander because she doesn't have the ability to proc parts herself, because she doesn't have the ability to do a self-heal. It makes her very hard to run by herself solo or with a completely different team composition other than tech units. Because tech units are the only units, from my understanding, that will apply parts to the individual enemy. So again, that's going to be why she is a very niche hero. You can't really throw her on a whole lot of team compositions. That is going to be on that cons list if you are looking to pick up Gearshift and use on somebody else that you have already been building as a team comp. Now, the next thing up is going to be the provoke is hard to obtain compared to other provoking tanks. So because you have to proc off of like parts or something else like that, it makes her provoke not very easy to obtain. And so what I mean by that is even if you do throw parts, there's times if you're trying to run this team on auto, as I mentioned a second ago, the AI will fudge and you don't get parts off on that enemy, and or maybe your crit rate, or not your crit rate, your accuracy just isn't very good at the time of trying to use her, and therefore the parts doesn't land. And when the parts doesn't land, that could be very, very vital for your team succeeding in that specific round that you were running, or failing, because if you don't get that parts proc, then you don't get the ability to proc off that provoke. So that's going to be the reason why it is going to be a con on the list, is because if you look at somebody else like Eruptor or something else, look at this, we're about to complete it here in under 45 turns, baby. But again, like I said, by the way, this is the 5th floor. We'll take a look at that in a second. I know I kind of jumped in here, you know, without showing you guys, but this is going to be the 5th floor. And we got that 2-star clear, as you can see, the 5th floor of the Cyclops Ether Fortress. So again, Gearshift's an absolute mad lad, and that's not even 6-star awakened. But nevertheless, like I was mentioning on the thing, is the provoke is hard to obtain. If you look at somebody like Eruptor, Eruptor's always going to be able to jump in there and utilize the provoke on its skill. This really needs a parts, and like I said, if that parts just misses, then you're not going to get that provoke, which then means either especially if you're running on auto, that your abilities are going to be popping off and being used, and your ability is going to be on cooldown. So when you try to get that provoke, it kind of throws everything off, and again, it's just not going to be very fun if you have to keep on trying to repeat stages over and over again. So that's going to be one of the reasons why. And then the last but not least is low damage output. As a tank, she is a very low in damage. I guess not comparing to a lot of other tanks maybe, but comparing to Skylanders in general, because she is that tank defensive class, she doesn't have very good attack. So even if I ran her on a full attack build, which would be stupid of me in my opinion, instead of running her on a defensive and HP, because I want her to be as tanky as possible, especially with her dropping that provoke off. But nevertheless, that's going to be the reason why I think that is a con as well. She does a little bit of damage, so again, it's not going to be very easy to kill off a lot of teams, especially in arena, that utilizing just her. Sorry, you know, if you were using other DPS, obviously, but that's going to be the reason why it's going to be very hard to kill off some of those teams that are very tanky in defensive comps. But nevertheless, we're going to dive into some of the really good units or Skylanders that pair well with her. And the first one is going to be the chick here that I'm currently running, and that is going to be Sprocket. Sprocket is absolutely ridiculously good for any tech team compositions, in my opinion, and that is going to be because her skill set is really good. The first one is going to be inflicts 93% of attack as damage to 3 random enemies and grants the parts effect for 3 turns with an 85% chance when you attack accurately. But look at this, only on a 2 mana cost. So, and it also does 3 endurance down. So not only is she doing 3 endurance down, that's going to be very, very nice if you're trying to drop that boss's or that enemy's endurance. But not only that, it's only a 2 mana cost skill. And like I said, last but not least, she has the ability to do AoE and apply parts to everybody across the board. Now, I have yet to see her hit. Well, I guess never mind. It says only no. It says for 3. Okay, so I'm wrong. But you get what I'm saying. It's going to hit 3 out of the 4 units or the Skylanders that you're going up against. But I have definitely seen her hit 3 quite often. Now that I think about it, I was actually going to say she doesn't hit all 4 of them, but that's because it clearly says it only hits 3 random enemies. But you get the point. That's going to be why she is an absolute mad lad partner when it comes to partnering her up with Gearshift, just because she has that ability to throw parts very, very easily and across the board. So then that way, if you are running AI, it makes your AI runs a little bit smoother. We're going to actually dive into the awakened version of her first skill, and that's going to be inflicts 138% of attack, adds damage to 1 enemy, and grants the effect resistance rate down by 20%, and with a 75% chance when you attack accurately. But additionally, this is going to be where Sprocket really, really shines. I know this isn't a spotlight video on Sprocket, but she also has a silence. Again, very, very nice for boss fights. We covered a little bit on her when it comes to the Mirage Tower video. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out right now. I'll put a pop-up here if I actually remember, because sometimes I forget to put a pop-up up here. But the passives as well is going to be if the parts effect is granted on the enemy, or when an enemy has the parts effect on them, she will recover the HP of the ally with the lowest HP by 25% of your max HP, and it will additionally grant the defensive up effect on yourself for 3 turns. That's going to be why she's very, very good to run with somebody like not Sprocket, geez Louise. That's why she's going to be very good to run with Gearshift, because she offers that healing ability, proccing off of parts for Gearshift if he needs health. Not only that, she has the ability to throw in AoE parts on all of the units, so then that it makes the AI a little bit easier and less fudgy for able to get that provoke every single time you use Gearshift's ability. So again, very, very nice. Her leader skill isn't anything crazy. All it does is increase the effect resistance rate of your team members by 10%. But if Sprocket does happen to go into break status, then she creates a shield equivalent of 25% of the max HP. So again, not bad, not the worst, but definitely, in my opinion, an OP unit to pair with Gearshift. You definitely need her. So that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen, for the Gearshift Spotlight video. So if you guys want to see something else when it comes to Gearshift, drop a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. But I'm absolutely excited to bring this to you guys. Gearshift, do not sleep on my man. He's very, very good, and I'm excited to see what we can do once we hit that max, 80, and then that 6-star awaken to get those additional procs on his abilities. So that's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. As always, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notification every time we drop a video. I love you guys. I will see you guys on the next one.